A habit went viral online. Wake up at 5 a.m. and your entire life will change in 90 days. Millions of people have tried it. Most of them quit by day 9. But here's the part nobody talks about. The people who do succeed at it are proving something almost nobody expected, and it has almost nothing to do with the clock. This is the real story behind the 5 a.m. club and what actually happens inside the brain of someone who sticks with it. In 2009, a researcher at University College London named Philippa Lally set out to answer a simple question. How long does it actually take to build a new habit? For decades, the popular number floating around was 21 days. It showed up in self-help books, seminars, and eventually 1,000 YouTube videos. Lally wanted to test it properly. She tracked 96 people over 12 weeks as they tried to build a new daily habit. Some picked exercise, some picked a new eating pattern, some picked drinking a glass of water after breakfast. Every day, participants logged whether they'd done the behavior and how automatic it felt. The 21-day number turned out to be wrong, badly wrong. The real average was 66 days, and the range was enormous. Some habits took as little as 18 days, others took over 250. The habits that formed fastest weren't the hardest ones or the easiest ones. They were the ones tied to an existing routine, a fixed time, a fixed trigger. That detail matters more than it sounds like it should, because it's the same detail hiding inside every 5 a.m. success story that's ever gone viral. Here's what a typical 5 a.m. transformation story looks like. Someone stuck in a life that isn't working. A crisis or a moment of clarity, a decision to wake up early, and months later, a completely different person. New skills, new job, new discipline. The story always frames the wake-up time as the cause. But when researchers who study behavior change actually looked at what separates the people who stick with early rising from the people who quit in a week, the clock had almost nothing to do with it. What mattered was something psychologists call an implementation intention. A plan specific enough that it removes that moment of choice entirely. Not, I'll exercise more, but at 6 a.m., after I put the kettle on, I do 20 push-ups by the kitchen counter. The research on this, led by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer starting in the 1990s, found that people who formed these specific if-then plans were roughly 2 to 3 times more likely to actually follow through than people who just set a general goal. The second piece is what behavioral scientists call decision load. Every choice a person makes in a day draws down a limited pool of mental energy. By evening, after a full day of small decisions, that pool is close to empty, which is part of why most attempts to build a new habit at night fail. There's nothing left to spend on it. The early morning works, researchers have found, not because 5 a.m. has some special property, but because it's the one window in the day when almost no decisions have been made yet. The tank is full. So the viral advice isn't wrong that mornings work. It's wrong about why they work. It was never really the time. It was the fact that a fixed time attached to a fixed trigger with no decision left to make is one of the few conditions under which discipline reliably survives contact with real life. This explains something else researchers have puzzled over: why so many people can white-knuckle a new habit for 2 or 3 weeks and then lose it completely right around the point. Self-help culture insists it should already be automatic. If the real average is 66 days, not 21, then someone who quits on day 20 hasn't failed at building a habit. They've simply stopped 1 day before most people are even a third of the way there. The 21-day number didn't just mislead people about the timeline. It set them up to quit at exactly the point persistence was starting to matter most. Here's a third piece, and it's the one almost no viral video mentions. Habit researchers have found that the specific behavior in the new routine matters less than most people assume. What predicts long-term success isn't which skill someone is learning at 5 a.m. It's whether the routine is protected from negotiation. No exceptions. No, just this once. Every study on habit formation finds the same pattern. Consistency beats intensity. 2 imperfect but daily 20-minute sessions build more lasting change than one perfect 2-hour session done sporadically. So, the mice and men version of this story that gets told online, a broken life, a single decisive morning, a 90-day miracle, isn't fiction exactly. Waking up early can work. But the mechanism was never the sunrise. It was a fixed trigger, a specific if-then plan, and a decision removed from the day before the mind had spent its energy elsewhere. Stack those 3 conditions at any hour of the day, and that research suggests the odds of success look almost identical. Which raises the real question the viral videos skip past entirely. If it isn't really about 5 a.m., why does the story always get told that way? Partly because wake up earlier is simple and dramatic, a single visible act anyone can picture. And partly because a story about willpower and a sunrise is more satisfying to tell than a story about decision architecture and implementation intentions. One sounds like a movie, the other sounds like a lab report. But the lab report is the one that replicates. None of this means the early morning routine is a myth. The habit is real, the transformations are real, and for a lot of people, the quiet hour before the world wakes up genuinely is when the work gets done. What's not real is the idea that the clock itself is doing the work. The clock is just the easiest place to attach a trigger that has no competition and no decisions left to make. So, if you're going to try it, the research points to something more specific than wake up at 5. Pick one behavior, attach it to one fixed cue. Remove every decision you can from the moment you do it, and expect it to take closer to 2 months than 3 weeks before it stops feeling like a fight. The people who make it look effortless were never running on more willpower than everyone else. They just stopped needing any.